But we're joined by Congresswoman Jayapal from the 7th Congressional District of Washington State. And so we are so happy that you're here with us today at the People's Gathering. And we invited you, please, sister, to just give us some inspiration. Please. We have just come off of a nail biter of an election and the results, and we still stress and sis, hey, what are your takeaways from all of this?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me, and thank you for everything that you do, and how great that we have a people's gathering because the people's democracy just worked. And I think that is the most important takeaway. And of course, I have to thank my constituents in the 7th Congressional District for giving me 84% of the vote here in the district.
Rock
Pretty
that.
phenomenal. But the really important piece here is that, this was a nail biter. It was really stressful. And I think that there are a lot of times in our country's history, and there probably will be in our future, where people doubt that democracy works. They doubt that their voice matters. They doubt that their vote matters. And so they stay home. And that's on both sides of the aisle, but certainly with a lot of our young folks, progressives, folks of color, government has not worked for us. And I want to be really clear about that. There have been many times when government has not done enough for those who are most vulnerable. However, government is the great equalizing force that can bring opportunity to everyone. That is what we believe. And so it's really important that people understand if you pull out of the democracy, if you don't use your vote, if you stay home, if you don't believe you have power, then it will keep going in a negative trajectory. And what we need to do is two things. We need to have people vote and be engaged, not only during the election, right, but year round, because I'm an organizer and I believe that organizing is what counts. But also, we need to elect more people who are willing to represent the issues on the ground. And it isn't just the representation of color of skin that is so important, gender, all of those things, really, really important. But it's also about whether you're willing to take on the corporate interests and the wealthiest that really have way too much influence on policy, and be willing to fight for the people. And I think that is why I'm so excited about this election result. Having Joe Biden and Kamala Harris is a new direction. We have just dumped Trump. We have pushed out the most racist and xenophobic president in a long time. And I say that recognizing that there are Republicans who feel that way as well. That isn't just a Democratic perspective. It's a
But
perspective.
they quiet about it though. The Republicans that feel that way, they quiet.
Well, you can see it in the votes, right? I mean, you
Right.
can't necessarily see it from the Republicans in Congress, which is really unfortunate. Not hardly any Republican senators have even congratulated Joe Biden and
Right.
Kamala Harris, and some of them, both members of Congress in the House and the Senate, are on Fox TV, saying that the election was stolen. No, the election was not stolen. The
Yep.
election belongs to the people, and
That's
so
right.
I
Yeah.
think that's where we are.
So I'm gonna in my black church tradition, I'm like, you better preach.
I suddenly wondered if I was being too partisan, so I was
You
trying to
better
tone it down a
preach.
little. But hey, listen, as far as preaching, let me just preach this. Let me preach this. We would not have won Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Arizona, Georgia without the work of Black people across those urban,
Right.
dense areas, right, that were
Yes.
delivering the vote. Young people, these folks are really progressive, and Joe Biden didn't go as far as they wanted, but they understood that the way to shape this, to build a more perfect union, is to take those hands and put them on the moral arc of the universe
That's
and bend
right.
it more quickly to justice.
So let's talk. Let's speak to our friends that didn't vote for the Biden Harris ticket. And I listened to President-elect Biden's speech, and he's like, "Give us a chance." So what are your words to our Washingtonians and others that may not have supported this ticket, but now it is what it is, and we have it. What's the unity call? What do you think What do you think? You're not. What do you think? What are you asking for us to do?
I think it is that. It is think about the people, right? Think about the country, our constitution, our democracy, people who fought for things like voting rights for everybody, people who lost their lives fighting for it, including my dear late colleague John Lewis.
Lewis.
Um, Help us to pass the Voting Rights Advancement Act. That is not a Democrat or a Republican issue. That is an American issue. If you believe in democracy, you should believe in expanding voting rights so that everybody has the right to vote.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Work with us on infrastructure. That's not a Democratic or a Republican initiative. That benefits every district and every state across the country. Our roads, our bridges, our school systems, our water systems, our rural broadband, everything is part of that ability to connect to each other, whether it's physically or virtually. And work with us on immigration reform. This is a bipartisan issue. This country has many, many millions of people who have been doing the work, who are even essential workers on the front lines, putting food on our table and in our food kitchens.
That's right.
Let's not demonize people. Work with us on racial justice. I mean, the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act is the most sweeping piece of legislation that Congress has considered, but it's a first step. But it is a step in making sure that we never have a moment where we watch a black man murdered with the knee of a police officer on his neck. That should not be what any Democrat, Republican, or independent in this country wants for our country. And so those are the things I think we can get done. But a lot does depend on Republicans not being obstructionists and Joe Biden and Kamala Harris being bold, because unity is a good thing as long as it is providing for the people.
That's right.
Just asking for unity, if it's only going to benefit the top 1% and the wealthiest corporations, is not going to help us. And we will end up with another Donald Trump if we don't deliver real results for people this time around.
So talk to us a little bit I mean, as I'm watching all the different news organizations, I'm seeing with inside the Democratic Party, there's starting to be chatter, chatter, chatter out there that wasn't, I mean, like wonderfully was quiet as we were moving forward with the election, but now it's erupting. So how even to unify inside of the own Democratic Party, let alone look to the others? What's going on there?
Well, I'm the co chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, and my message has been everybody had a part in this election. And to point fingers at progressives and say, we almost lost the election because of progressives, or far left policies are hurting us. I don't know what a far left policy is. When we passed a $15 minimum wage here in Seattle, we were the first major city in the country to do that. People called it a far left policy.
Mm.
But guess what happened in this election? Florida, a state that went for Donald Trump in the presidential election this time around, passed with a supermajority of
Wow.
voters a
Okay.
$15 minimum wage. So I think, so I just think we have to be very careful. I was just talking to my staff about my College for All bill, which says, listen, education, that higher education, whether it's a 2-year college or a 4-year public college, that education is so important for being able to have a good future, a good job, and a good future. Let's make it free
Mm,
for everybody.
mm.
Why would we hold education back when it's the formative building block on which other opportunity is built? All the other major countries, the peer countries in the world, in Europe and also in Asia, they do that, and that's an investment that makes sense to do. Joe Biden has embraced making college free for families earning up to 125,000. That was a major plank of our progressive agenda 4 years ago that we now have gotten into a mainstream Democratic platform. And so, when people criticize progressives, it does bother me. Let's stay unified. Let's get as much as we can done, and let's focus on the result.
That's
What will this deliver to
that's right.
the most vulnerable and to working people? If
That's right.
Republicans want to unify with us around those things, I welcome them in. Just don't ask us to forget about the people in the name of some compromise that doesn't really do anything for people.
That's right, girl. I'm about to pass the offering plate here in a minute. But one last question. I know your time is tight, and again, so grateful for this moment with you. The I want you to speak to the folks that did support the Biden Harris ticket, and um, can, can you help us not gloat so much? Like, don't be mean. What is the call to action? Because in this conference, the People's Gathering Conference, we're looking for specific tools or strategies that we can be of service to this total cause. So aside from no 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 no, you know, what is the what do you say to us in terms of reaching across the your street or next door in your workplace? How do we do the work of unity?
Yeah, such an important question. I don't think it's about gloating, but I do think it's about celebration.
All
You know,
right.
we're not very good about celebrating victories. And the thing is, we've had a dark 4 years, and there are a lot of people around the country that were living in fear and pain and desperation. And we need to replenish our souls. That's a good thing to replenish. So, not necessarily gloating, but I encourage dancing and celebration. Now, once we have done that, try to keep that sense within us of possibility and then get to work on the ground organizing. Each one of these things will require us to have Joe Biden and Kamala Harris's back in pushing them with love and generosity further than they may feel comfortable going. Because remember, there's going to be a lot of people who are whispering in their ear other things.
Hmm.
And our job is to make our grassroots movement as strong as possible while recognizing the limits of what we might come up against. My mantra, if you will, is if politics is the art of the possible, then it is our job as activists and organizers to shift the boundaries of what is seen as possible. That happens through grassroots organizing. Don't think that because we won the election, you can go back to your couches and relax.
Yeah.
Okay. This is going to be getting engaged with all the groups you can get involved with, not only the ones that are, the big advocacy groups, but what about your family? What about your friends?
That's
Who are
right.
you talking to about what the election means for you and now what needs to happen? And how can you stay engaged in building a bigger and bigger coalition to get the things done that we need to get done?
Yep, that's it right there. I think we should just like drop the mic. What I do want to say though is thank you. And thank you from, I mean, I didn't ask him if I could say it, but I'm going to say for President Belton at PLU, on behalf of President Alan Belton at PLU, thank you, Congresswoman
Well,
Jayapal, for joining us today in our border regions. And we're just so happy that you said yes.
well, Melanie, thank you so much, and to the everybody that is here at the People's Gathering. Never ever doubt the power of your voice, the power of your action, and the power of your vote. Those are the only things that really make this a democracy that is worth caring about. So, thank you so much to PLU and to everyone at the People's Gathering, and of course to you, my sister, for your incredible leadership and continued commitment to justice.
Thank you.